Welcome to Selling in the Age of AI.
Yeah, this is good stuff. So,
Must-listen podcast for sales professionals who lean into technology without leaning on it. Dive into the future of sales with your host, the dynamic and inspiring Frank Somma, renowned keynote speaker, best-selling author, seminar leader, and business coach. Get ready for game-changing insights and strategies that value technology but place humanity at the top of the sales pyramid.
Benvenuti a tutti. Welcome everyone to Selling in the Age of AI, the podcast where we respect the tech but place human-to-human contact squarely at the top of the sales pyramid. I'm Frank Somma, and I am thrilled to tell you that my guest today is Lasada Pippen. Lasada is a former engineer turned motivational speaker known for helping leaders and aspiring presenters rise above obstacles and achieve their full potential. As a first-generation college graduate, bilingual STEM expert, and communications expert, Lasada empowers professionals to unlock their voice and strengthen their presence. Through his coaching practice, Lasada guides executives seeking to articulate vision, motivate teams, and cultivate executive presence, as well as emerging keynote speakers ready to command the stage and grow their speaking careers. His individualized approach offers actionable strategies, communication mastery, and the confidence to lead and speak with impact. Welcome, Lasada, or as your friends call you, LP. Here we are. Thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Frank, that was absolutely amazing, beautifully stated. Thank you so much. So glad to be here. Excited to have this conversation with you.
You know, right off the bat, I need to learn about you. How does an engineer, that profession not typically known for their ability to communicate, morph into a communications expert, much less a well-renowned speaker? How did this happen?
Totally, man. I'm an introvert at heart. That's my natural posture is introvert. But when I step on a stage, when I get to inspire people, when I get to engage the hearts of people, that's where I light up. That's where I come totally alive. And it really is just a passion that I developed young in life. I grew up in a faith-based household and, watching pastors and other speakers inspire people and watch people get encouraged, empowered. Something sparked or lit inside of me way younger. And I didn't have the courage or the boldness to jump straight into that.
Right.
I grew up in a low resource household. And so we had one message, which was go to school, get a good education, get a good job.
Right.
So that's what I did. And so that's how I ended up in engineering and tech.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that for a little bit over a decade. And, I was always wrestling with the idea of, man, I really want to do what I feel like I'm purpose gifted and called to do versus just doing something that I can do.
Right.
And so I got bold one year. My contract was ending and I had an option to either renew the contract or take it as an opportunity to take a full leap of faith. And obviously I took that full leap of faith and I haven't looked back ever since. And so that's kind of how I made that transition from engineering into what I really wanted to do, what I feel like was in my heart to do. And so I don't want to live life with regrets at the end. I don't want to look back and be like, man, I wish I would have, or I should have, I could have. I don't want that story. So I took that opportunity and jumped out there and started doing it full time.
Wow. That's frightening. Think about, first of all, what did the family say, right? Here's this first generation college graduate, and he's going, yeah, I'm not going to use that.
Right. Totally. Yes. That's exactly how it sounded too.
Yeah.
My dad thought I was crazy.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. I had close friends that thought I was crazy. They was like, wait a minute, you're going to leave engineering and tech, a great field.
Yes.
You're going to leave that to go do this, like they thought I was crazy. And so, yeah, it was interesting making that transition.
Yeah, and a burgeoning field. You talk about people today, healthcare, engineering, tech. These are places to be. These are the growth avenues, So
That's right.
That must have taken a heck of amount of bravery.
Yeah, it did. And, my passion and my purpose was just much louder than the fear. or then the hesitation. The purpose was screaming a little bit louder.
Well,
I had
what
been
was,
doing it for free, for 5 years. I was
that was my
juggling.
question. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was doing it for free, and so I would use all of my PTO, go do these events and so forth. And, it got to a point to where I had to make a decision, and I chose to take the route of faith and courage. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you had to feel it. Like when you get up on a stage, you know if you're being well received, right? So those 5 years of doing things for people out of the goodness of your heart and trying to move
Yep.
people from one place to another with your words and your story, it had to have been well received, right? To encourage you to go, hey, I want to do this more.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think if I wasn't good at it, I wouldn't have pursued it. If it wasn't well received, I would not have pursued it. And so I knew something was there. I believe that was my natural ability is when I get in front of people,
Right,
when I get on stage, when I'm able to inspire. That was my natural ability. I was just working on improving upon that natural ability.
right.
I was just honing my skills. I was getting sharpened, and I loved it so much to where I would have did it for free. I would have continued, if I didn't have, somebody whispering in my ear saying, hey, you need to figure out how to monetize or, reap the benefits of what you're going to be doing in life. And
Right.
so, but that's just how much I loved it, that I was doing it for free. And I had to be pretty good at it, to be here today. You know what I mean?
For sure. So tell me about beginning in schools. I'm interested in why schools, why you still do a great deal of your business in schools. You do other, I know you do corporate as well,
Yeah.
but you're talking about schools are a big part of what you're out traveling about and who you're talking to. So
Yeah.
tell us about that.
Yeah, they actually are. And I actually started in faith-based organizations, and then I transitioned to schools and so forth. I saw a lot of students, I saw a lot of teachers, I saw a lot of educators and leadership in schools. I saw myself within a lot of those people and some of the students, first, especially first gen students, low resource students, no role models, no blueprints, not really knowing how to make success out of yourself. I saw a lot of that. And so one side of me was the side that wanted to give back, wanted to pour back into those hearts, into those minds. And for the adult side of it, the educators and the leaders and so forth, those were the people that dealt with students like me. It's not that I was a bad student or anything like that, but they poured their time in, they poured their energy in, they poured their efforts in, and they worked with people who didn't believe in themselves. That was the type of student that I was. I wasn't a high GPA student. Matter of fact, I graduated high school with a 1.967 GPA. 2.0 sounds a little bit better, so we'll round that up. But I graduated with a low GPA, but there were still teachers that was pouring into me, that was still believing, and that was still, using their effort and their energy, and we know that they are overworked and underpaid. We understand that. And so that side of me is, to pull at my heart to pour into those people, help with leadership and staff development and so forth. And then also connect with those students who need a ounce of hope, who need to figure out that, hey, you can still make it. You can become anything that you want to become, regardless of where you started from. But you got to believe in yourself and you got to work at it. And it's very possible to get there. And so that's a huge side of what I do.
Yeah, and I know we're not talking about selling an AI, and I don't care because this is so interesting to me.
Yeah,
So,
so good.
how are you inspiring these kids? Like, you go out and how do you get a message across to say you have everything inside you need? You're not, you may not be using it, maybe you're just blocking it, but you're not lacking anything. You have what you need. How do you get that across to them? What do you say to your groups of students?
Yeah, it's two things kind of that comes to mind as we're talking about that. And one, I have this theme or this tagline that says, "Turn your obstacles into your opportunities."
Okay.
That's kind of the first line right there. Is that if you look at every obstacle as an opportunity, you won't get stuck. You won't drown in a glass of water, as I like to put it. And so see your obstacles as opportunities. See them as stepping stones. See them as a chance to build resilience. See that as a chance to grow. See that as a chance to develop. See that as a chance to find out what it is that you're made of. Turn your obstacles into opportunities. And something happened with me personally is how I came up with that. I was standing in the middle of Burger King one day making $6.75 an hour. I was happy because I could buy Jordans and jerseys. I had no goals, no plans, no ideas, no dreams. My parents, they show up one day at my job with a person who wasn't from our neighborhood, didn't look like us, didn't talk like us, didn't sound like us. Come to find out, it was a college recruiter that my parents brought to the job. And I realized that my parents were bringing an opportunity to me. I had to realize it as an opportunity.
Right.
And so a lot of times we get stuck behind the obstacle instead of just reframing that or changing our perspective on what it really is
Yeah.
and turn that obstacle into an opportunity. And then you have to take advantage of it. You have to be aggressive. You have to be obsessed with wanting to be better. That's a part of what I tell them. And then another line is that you don't have to be the best in order to give your best.
Right.
You don't have to be at the top of your class. You don't have to be the smartest in your class. You don't have to have the latest gear. You don't have to have the newest sneakers. You don't have to have any of those things. You don't have to be the best in order to give your best. Put your best foot forward every single day. If you can just wrap your mind around those two lines, turning your obstacles into opportunities, and you don't have to be the best in order to give your best, that puts you ahead of a lot of people. That separates you from the pack, from the crowd. And I believe that's an easy path in order to step forward and go after anything that is that you want.
And God bless mom and dad, boy. I got to tell you,
Yeah, for sure.
that's wonderful. That's wonderful. They knew what was in you that could be tapped, and then they brought someone to you, which a lot of people thank God for you too, that you're out there talking to kids in schools, and a lot of people don't know what the opportunity is. When you grow
Yep.
up in a low income kind of situation. I mean, I came from a housing project in my early life, right? And my
Yep.
neighborhood, I was expected to be a laborer, a civil servant, or a criminal. There wasn't any
Hmm.
other, I didn't know anybody went to work, in an office or,
That's
was,
right.
none of that existed. And similarly, I was privileged to meet someone who saw something in me and said, "Hey, why don't we take a look in this direction?" And then I got lucky a few times, but it's interesting to see that you're out there talking to kids because a lot of them don't know what the opportunities beyond. Like if I'm working in Burger King, I may think that's all there is. I
That's
don't know
correct.
what's out there. I haven't seen it. It isn't in my neighborhood. It hasn't visited me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that. And even just to go a little bit further, is that my parents, they barely graduated high school. They moved to Georgia when they were 18, 19 years old. I have two older brothers. My oldest brother, he barely graduates high school. My middle brother drops out of high school. So I didn't know what success looked like. I was happy at Burger King because I could buy Jordans and jerseys. You know what I mean? That's not real life, but I didn't know what it looked like. I didn't know how to be successful. As you said, I didn't see people going into an office. I
Right.
didn't see people, leaving a blueprint behind and saying, hey, this is how you do it. I didn't have anyone to lean on when I was going to college and when I was struggling and when I was failing. I couldn't go directly in my house and say, hey, what did you do when? I couldn't ask that question.
Right.
And so I think that's a critical part for growth and development is seeing an opportunity and then taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
You have to when you see it, you have to seize it also.
Yeah, and you got to be able to see those mentors that are out there in life. Somebody's hindsight could be your foresight. You got to be
That's right.
looking for those opportunities. So, LP, I saw when I was looking at your website, you do a lot of corporate stuff too. You talk to sales teams. What's
Yeah.
that like? You going out talking to sales teams? What kinds of things are you trying to empower them with?
Yeah. I have a concept. I want to play a two-question game with you real quick. And I'm going to lead you to this concept that we kind of created for the corporate side and the coaching side as it relates to sales.
Okay,
So, two-question game.
I'm nervous.
It's fun. It's okay. What is the number one selling beverage in the entire world?
Coca-Cola.
Okay. Question number two. What is the number one selling ice cream flavor in the entire world?
Chocolate.
Chocolate. Okay, awesome. Love it. Question number one selling beverage in the entire world. It's not Coke. It's not Sprite. It's not Coke Zero. It's not Diet Coke. It's not Dr. Pepper. It's not Pepsi. The number one selling beverage in the entire world is water. Water. If you place water in the grocery store, you're going to sell that bottle of water for 89 to 99 cents.
Okay.
If you place it in the gym, you're going to sell it for $2. If you put it in the airport, you're going to sell it for $5.
Okay.
If you buy it on the airplane, you're going to pay $7. If you buy it in the hotel room, you're going to pay $10 for a bottle of water. Number one selling beverage in the entire world.
Okay.
Number one selling flavor ice cream in the entire world. It's not chocolate. It's not cookies and cream. It's not the ice cream with the brownies and the sprinkles on top. It's not those things. Number one selling ice cream flavor in the entire world is vanilla. So think about this just for a moment. And this is the concept that I want to share with you.
Yeah.
Simplicity sells, complexity fails. If you can wrap your mind around that concept, simplicity sells, complexity fails.
Okay.
That is eye-opening. That is clarifying. It is game-changing when you think about that. There's nothing sexy about water. There's nothing sexy about vanilla ice cream.
Right.
Those are as plain as they get. Water is plain. Vanilla ice cream is plain, but they're simple. People can understand the perceived value, especially when it comes to water. You understand the perceived value of that. When it comes to vanilla ice cream, a lot of times that you just don't want to think. The menu is confusing. It's complex.
Right.
It has too many options. Let me just settle, or let me just stick with vanilla.
Right.
I know what I get with vanilla. Simplicity sells, complexity fails. That's what we talk about. We introduce that concept.
So you're coming to salespeople and telling them essentially, right, because their product is their product, but to simplify their message then.
Yeah, you have to simplify your messaging. You have the top priority of your messaging in sales should be clarity.
Okay.
If you get great clarity, everything else sort of falls in place. A lot of people need to simplify their entire processes. It's just too complex. Have you ever been to a restaurant and you look at the menu and the menu is overwhelming?
Yes.
It's too many options.
Yes.
Too many options, too many dishes of the same dishes. I've been in places like that and I've walked out. I said, let me go somewhere else where I don't have to think as hard, where I don't have to, have to spend so much time and energy just trying to make a decision on something to eat.
Right.
Simplicity sells, complexity fails.
Right. Yeah, that's amazing. So what are you seeing out in the world now? Because you are a tech savvy guy coming from the life that you came from. What are you seeing the AI influence on the corporate side, especially as it relates to sales teams?
Oh, yeah, awesome. This is great here, Frank. This is great. And here it is that humans still matter. And humans still matter the most. Just last month, July 15th, YouTube announced that they are not going to monetize AI generated videos. They're not going to monetize these videos that creators are creating, where it's AI generated, AI voiceovers. And I'm not saying that stuff is bad. I think that stuff is phenomenal. I think that stuff is great. There's a place for it and all that kind of stuff. But what YouTube is telling you is that humans still matter. They want to know what you think. They want to know your ideas. They want to hear your voice. They want to see your face. And so I think that is critical. I think that is eye-opening. And I think it just simply points us back to humans still matter. There's still a place in this AI digital world for people like you and I.
Yeah.
Human interaction, human connection, humans still matter. And humans are still the top priority. That's what I'm seeing. And it also gives a sense of, hey, everything is going to be okay. It kind of eases the fear also.
Yeah.
A lot of people have fears built around AI and that is going to replace them and that is going to outsource everything, but it also eases that, that humans still matter. Humans are still important. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm gathering and taking away. Yeah.
I feel you and I agree with you. And as I said in the top of the show, that we place humanity at the top of the sales pyramid. And the
That's right.
reason
Love
for
that.
is because, listen, if you're a professional salesperson, your customer doesn't need you to bring in information.
That's right.
That ChatGPT and Google have trumped you on that. Your customer probably knows more about your product than you do by
That's
the
right.
time that you show up. So
Yep.
what is your purpose then? Isn't it, to shepherd the client through and understand the nuances, right? And that's a very human experience. I was training a sales team yesterday in Manhattan and talking about, how when you're physically meeting someone, right? What is your limbic system like? So salespeople are out there, and how much the human contact matters is paying attention to your body, your physicality, because most of your message is delivered through your physical presence more than your words, right? The Meharibin study in
Right.
UCLA, super famous, right? 57% body language, 30-something% tone, and only 7% the
Yep.
words you use, which is, the basis for sarcasm. I always say to
Yep.
these guys, I can look at my child and say they did something, and I could go, I can't love you anymore. Or I can look at them and say, I can't love you anymore. The words are the same. My
But
physicality, my tone are what matters. So as a
so good.
professional salesperson, this is what we're bringing. We're bringing this safety that other people feel in that same physical presence. That's what we're bringing, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it can't be replaced. I think I saw a line. This was by you, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing here, but I believe it went something like you lean into the tech, but you don't lean on the tech.
Right.
So, something along those lines.
Yes,
And
exactly right.
yeah. And so again, it just you can't replace human interaction. That can never be replaced.
Right.
I don't get to enjoy your laugh, if we are hiding behind AI or if we're trying to replace that.
Right.
I don't get to see your smile. I
Right.
don't get to know how you hold your hand a certain way if you're feeling nervous or if you're feeling excited.
Right.
I don't get to see those little quirks or those little things about you that only I can see in human interaction.
Are
And so
there
we have to always value and be grateful that we have human interactions and that it's still important and that it still is the top priority.
Lasada, are there things that you can tell folks about in terms of communicating effectively, or, you hear that, oh, great salespeople are charismatic, well, what does that mean?
Mhm,
And
mhm.
how do I communicate better? Are there any tips that you have for me being better out there in the world with other people?
Yes, of course. And charisma is great. That's a great trait to have.
Mm,
It's not all.
right.
A lot of people invest so much in the charisma
Yeah.
that there's so many other things that lack.
Okay.
Could be a lack of content, could be a lack of clarity, could be a lack of confidence,
Mm,
but they put it all into charisma, and it's awesome. I think charisma is great. I have charisma, at least I've been told, and that's totally fine. But we have a framework that we offer in our coaching, and I also introduce this whenever I'm out speaking. I introduce this concept that we call C4 communication.
okay.
Anybody can use it, anybody can apply it. If you're
Hmm.
novice, you immediately get better. If you're intermediate, you immediately get better. If you're a professional, if you're an executive, anybody can apply this C4 framework that we introduce in terms of communicating more effectively.
Okay.
Here's the reality, Frank, is that anyone can speak, not everyone can communicate. Those are two different things. There are a lot of
Okay.
people that can speak, but not everyone
Production
can
team.
communicate.
Production
Say it
team.
one more time.
Clip that and bring it. Lasada's going to say it again. Go.
Yes, not everyone can speak, not everyone can communicate.
Wow.
Two different things,
Yeah.
two different ball games. Here's the C4 framework that
Please.
will help anyone, regardless of where you are, become a more effective communicator. Number one is that your C, it has to be clear. You have to have clear communication. Remember, we were just talking about clarity. Clarity should be your top of your game. It should be the top priority when you're communicating. It has to be clear. People should not ask, I wonder what does Frank mean by that when he says this. There should not be more questions than answers when you're communicating. So it has to be clear. Think about this for a second. A guy walks into a store. He orders a avocado toast. He says, hey, I would like to order a slice of avocado toast, but I want you to hold the avocados. That's not very clear. That's confusing. The only thing he had to do was walk in the store and say, hey, can you give me a slice of toast? That's all. So it's
Great.
clear.
That's
You
great.
want to have clear communication. That's number one.
Yeah.
C2 is that it needs to be concise. Get to the point. A lot of people tell stories. We use storytelling, but a lot of times we give too many details. We give too many details too soon, and we put the details in the wrong place. So it's got to be clear. It's got to be concise. Number three is that it has to be compelling. Compelling communication leads to action.
Right.
Compelling communication will cause your teams to shift. It will cause your teams to move in a certain way. Okay. But it has to be clear and concise first before it can get too compelling. And then number four is that you want to deliver it with great confidence. Okay. Not saying that you're right or wrong, but if you deliver it with great confidence, everything changes. C4 framework, C4 communication. Clear, concise, compelling, confident. You can use it in the email. You can use it in text. You can use it wherever you want to. C4 framework.
I love it, man. You know, the concise part, I was with a guy the other morning having breakfast, and he was referring to another business associate that we both know who is not concise. And he said, you know, it takes John 10 minutes to make a 3-minute egg, which I thought was pretty fun.
That's right.
My line for that was always
about, I love that concept,
about a particular person that's wordy. I say, you know, it takes him 2 hours to watch 60 Minutes.
Yeah, I love that.
So yeah, these wise comments. But that's so I have to be clear. So you want to think about your message ahead of time. I want to be concise. I wanted to keep it in the smallest amount of words needed, right, to get my point across with punch. And then I have to be compelling. So it's got to be something where there's a component of emotion, or there's a reason for you, or I've compared it to what someone else has done that you'll find compelling and interesting. Got to be compelling. And then with confidence is interesting to me. So does that mean I'm the confidence part is that I have absorbed the message I'm going to give you and I believe it entirely, therefore I exude confidence, or are there other things that I need to do?
No, that's pretty much the bulk of it. Because here's the reality, Frank, is that the work on stage is not the real work.
Right.
That's the result of the real work.
Right.
Most of my work is done before I ever step foot on stage.
Sure.
So it's before the stage that matters the most. It's the prep work. It's the rehearsals. A lot of people don't like to rehearse. And if they do rehearse, they don't spend enough time rehearsing because they fear that they would sound robotic or they would sound scripted.
Right.
And it's actually the opposite effect. So my work is done before I ever step foot on stage. I'm prepared. I'm intimate with my content. And that's what leads to confidence. A lack of confidence usually is just a sign that you haven't prepared, that you're not intimate enough with your content. And you don't believe it enough because you're not intimate enough with it.
Wow.
You will fully believe your message if you spent time with it, if you've kind of chewed it, spit it out, see what happens. Can I say it this way? Can I say it that way? What happens when I pause right here, or if I pause at the 32-minute mark? Yeah. So the confidence part it starts in the prep work. It starts before you ever get to a stage, before you ever get in front of a person. That confidence is built before you ever walk out. So you have to prepare and you have to be intimate with your content.
I love that, man. Being intimate with your content, because you're 1,000,000% right. That's why you're confident, because you've spent the time, because you've done the preparation. So in going out and doing corporate gigs and meeting sales leaders and salespeople, are there, things that you've noticed in people that are similar? Like, can you tell me what are some traits of folks that are generally successful on the sales side?
Of course, curious.
Okay.
They're curious. Also on the sales side is that you're not trying to sell them what you want them to buy. That's not what you're trying to sell. You want to sell them what they need.
Okay.
And that will impact and change their life. Don't sell it for a dollar amount. Don't sell it for the value that you want to get out of it.
Right.
Sell it for the value that they need out of it. That's what people are buying. And so if salespeople are curious, that answers a lot of their questions. That closes more deals. That makes more of a human connection. Because if you're trying to talk to an audience about topic A, but they need topic B, you're not going to sell as much as you would like to.
Right.
And so if you're curious, if you ask the right questions, if you get into their details, not yours, but get into their details,
Right.
then you can present a better product. You can sell it more because you understand your audience, you understand your buyer. One of the top questions that I ask before I ever walk on stage when somebody is booking me is, what are your top 3 desired outcomes? That's the number one question that I ask.
Okay.
Because if I know that, then I would never deliver a cookie cutter message.
Right.
I don't try to use a one size fit all. If you remember that size in a shirt, it says one size fits all. That was further from the truth than anything. I hated that tag. Like there's no such thing as a one size fits all.
Right.
So if you're curious, if you have the trait of curiosity, you would do a lot better. And then of course you still have to be ambitious as well. You have to have thorough follow up and follow through.
Yes.
Just to name a few.
Yeah. Yeah, those are all important.
Yeah.
If you think back earlier in your career, maybe a mentor, whatever, what are some pieces of advice that made a difference for you?
Books.
Okay.
I had a lot of close relationships with people that I never met. I had a lot of close relationships with authors who I wasn't in their same city, I wasn't in their same town. Reading books allowed me to go places mentally where I couldn't go physically. So I was an avid reader, and I still am to this day. I read a lot
Good.
because I'm always trying to shape my mentality. I'm always trying to grow it, always trying to expand it. So a lot of great advice that I've learned has come in the form of books.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I didn't really have any physical mentors until maybe 3 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very cool. So thinking about you and your ability to communicate and connect with people, have you run into people who are skeptical at first, and how do you overcome skepticism? You're coming to sell your product, which is you at this point. But have you ever run into that where folks are skeptical or not sure that if it's right or whatever, and how do you manage that?
In terms of them selling their product, or they're
No,
skeptical about me showing up?
About you. So you're selling yourself, and your buyer is skeptical. They don't know if you're the right person. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I understand now. I'm one, I make sure. So the discoveries calls that I have with my clients, that's what those calls are for. Those calls are to work through any fears, any hesitation, anything like that. And to also let you know that when you hire me, you're not hiring an amateur. You're hiring an elite professional. You're hiring somebody who's put in the work. You're hiring somebody who's put in the hours. You're hiring somebody who's put in all of the reps needed. You're hiring somebody who's going to understand your audience. You're hiring somebody who's going to make sure that we deliver on what are your top 3 outcomes. What do you want to accomplish in this? I just try to simply give them the ease of knowing that you're picking the right guy. And it's not because you saw my highlight reel. It's not because you saw a clip. Those things are awesome. But I want to make that connection with them beyond the reel, beyond the video. Because what I realize is that there are a lot of people who can create a great reel. There are a lot of people who can create some great highlights. That anybody can do that. That is a lot. But if I can connect, and if I can just tug on the heartstrings a little bit, not in a manipulative type of way, but in a way to where I want to deliver this as customized as possible for you, for your audience, That's the winning formula,
Yeah,
is
that's
making a real
genuine
human
desire.
connection, if we can point back to that, Frank.
Yeah, there's no manipulation. That's genuine desire. What
Yeah,
you said before, you don't sell what you want, you sell what they need.
that's
And
right. Yeah.
finding out what
I'm
they
not trying to
need.
tell you about hey, this is my message.
No,
Hey,
no.
this is what I will say. No,
Right.
I want to know, what do they need?
What do you want? What
It's,
outcomes do you want? That's cool. So if you had, we got what, where as we're coming to wrap up, if you had a strong piece of advice to give to a young sales professional just starting out, nervous about AI replacing him, how do I make my mark in the world? What advice would you give that young sales professional?
I love it. Yeah. Two things, and I would kind of piece these lines together,
Please.
is number one is, don't allow the condition to determine the conclusion,
Okay.
because you may find yourself in situations to where you're fearful, to where you're worried, and that's a condition.
Right.
And a lot of times we allow our conditions to determine the conclusion. It determines the outcome.
Okay.
Don't allow the condition to ever determine the conclusion. In other words, don't make a permanent decision in a temporary moment. Sometimes we quit too soon, and we allow situations to influence our destination. If you can be as great as you want to be, if you can learn how to navigate around those things, there's this concept that we have, and it simply says, always push. And push simply means that you persevere until success happens.
Okay.
Yeah, always push. Don't get caught up on the condition to where it influences your conclusion. Don't allow certain conditions to change what your possible outcome or what your possible landing spot.
Right.
No, continue to push. Persevere until success happens. If you keep shooting, you'll eventually make a shot. If you keep swinging, you eventually hit a home run.
Right.
Persevere until success happens. Always push.
100%. So, last question. Are there any charities that you're associated with? Any good works that are out there that you want to give a shout out to or tell us about?
Yeah, not at the moment, not directly. There are some charities or ministries that I give to and that I donate to, and those are pretty much must ministries.
Okay.
But I don't have a direct connection or link to this particular charity or anything like that.
Those are the ministries, though, that you support.
I do, yeah. I donate to them. I give them clothes, shoes. I
Cool.
donate and support pretty often to that particular ministry. Yes.
All right. So, any final words? I mean, we're going to have the show notes of where to find you and all that, but is there anything that you want to highlight? Anything I didn't ask you that you wish I would have?
No, I think this was phenomenal. This was a great conversation. Love the way we dance and weave through various topics. So I think this was absolutely awesome.
That's great, man. You just said dance, and I heard a quote yesterday that said opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor.
Wow, I
I
love
like
that.
I liked it. I liked it. Like you have to be available. You said this before. You've got to be available to the opportunity. You've got to
That's
recognize,
right.
you know?
That's right.
So be
How,
on
how
the
do you say
dance
it again?
floor.
Opportunity dances
Dances
with.
with those already on the dance floor. Those who are on the dance floor. I think it was Jackson Brown. So I'll give a
Wow.
shout out here. So Dr. Rob Gilbert, who I mentioned before, has been a friend of mine for years. He has a thing called Success Hotline.
Hmm.
Success Hotline is a phone number you call and you get a 3 minute motivational message every day, 7 days a week. And he's been doing it for over 30 years, never missed a day. Think about that. 12,700 messages later,
Mm,
and the guy's brilliant. But I've been calling it every day, almost every day. I can't say every day, but for close to 30 years. And Rob's number is
nice.
973-743-4690. It's just a regular call. You call and you hear him go 3 minutes about a particular topic. That's where that quote came from. And he's always got great material all the time. He's terrific.
Wow, that is awesome. That is fabulous to hear.
All right, my friend Lasada, you've been awesome, fantastic. You dropped some real gems on our audience, and I'm sure everyone will appreciate it. And we'll have the show notes to, where to connect with Lasada, his website, emails, whatever he's got out there. And thank you so much for being here, man. We're going to wrap. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Frank, for having me. Pleasure being here having this conversation with you.
Ready to take your sales team or event to the next level? Visit franksomma.com to discover how Frank can coach your top performers, deliver a tailored workshop for your team, or captivate your audience with a content-packed keynote at your next event. Frank's best-selling book, B2B is Really P2P, is now available on Amazon and Frank's website. Here's a special offer. As a valued listener, mention this podcast when you contact Frank and receive a 10% discount on your first coaching session, keynote, or workshop booking.
That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of Selling in the Age of AI. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to all of the topics we discussed, and of course, to connect with our amazing guests. I have to shout out big love to my production team, Neeks, Angelo, Nico of Digital Presence. You guys rock. If you want your digital presence to explode, check these guys out at digitalpresence.team. And until next time, remember, people can't point and click you. Be the difference maker for your prospects and clients.